you're watching how the American election is heating up. We're going to talk about it with Gary Voris. Stay with us. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. This is biblical. Everything going on. We've got a lot of action happening in the Middle East, and what is happening in the U.S., it is crazyville. In all my years, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if you're paying close attention, but we will catch you up. First of all, we will start by reading from my precious Father's Bible. It means the world to me that he left me this treasure. He underlined it from stem to stern, and now, you know, if I'm having a bad day, I can kind of go, well, Lord, show me, you know, what did my dad underline that maybe would help me today? So I open it up today. So to Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. My father has underlined this heavy blue ink, okay? The secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Wow. The secret things belong to the Lord our God. I wonder what God actually knows is going on that are kind of his secrets, like he knows the beginning from the end. He knows if Donald Trump is getting in or not, and it looks like he is so far. I'm going to welcome Gary Michael Voris very quickly because I want you to hear from this guy. He has the word on the street of what's going on. 40-year Emmy Award-winning political news veteran and currently the host of In Depth at Souls and Liberty. Gary, welcome to the show. Thank you for sharing with us about, we're watching this. I don't know if you've ever seen something as crazy as is going on right now. They're demonizing Donald Trump like crazy, and Kamala Harris, you know, some people still voting for her.
Yeah, thanks very much for having on me, Laura-Lynn. This is, I got to tell you, the U.S. scene right now is so hot. It's on fire, and Donald Trump is the one holding the flamethrower right now. It is all moving in his direction. He had a little bit, potentially, a little bit of ground to make up. We're obviously going on polling information, but beyond the polling information right now, the actual types of votes are still coming in. And again, they haven't opened votes up and said, oh, this one's for Donald Trump or this one's for Harris. But they are comparing things for both parties. How do the Republicans do? How are they doing now in relation to 2020 and 2016? And how are Democrats doing now and back to 2016 as well, in relation to, you know, each other's numbers. Democrats are down, Republicans are up. More mail-in ballots requested, more sent back, that whole thing, all the metrics of everything you'd look for in advance, with the exception of what is the actual vote count, the tabulation, all of this stuff in advance, which of course creates the vote tabulation, all of it is pro-Trump right now, every last bit of it. That's why the Democrats are losing their minds.
They are losing their minds, and they're getting more rhetoric. I don't like what I'm hearing in the way that they're speaking about him. We have a man with at least 3 attempts on his life, Donald Trump. They're trying to kill him. And they keep talking about him like he's Hitler and all of these things. And I know that you're Catholic. And I watched Donald Trump a few days ago. And in fact, I got to see him in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he did sort of, there was only about 3,000 in attendance. It wasn't like your usual big rally, but it was all faith leaders. And in Charlotte, he said, man, they are after you Catholics. Like Kamala didn't even show up at that Catholic dinner that usually people go to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is when Trump is saying to Catholics, they're coming after you. They meaning she. What are they? I mean, of course, the Catholics in the context of the larger context of Christianity in general. And he said at the end of that, he said, and evangelicals, you're next. So, it's believers of Christ. Why? Because Christ is the Son of God. He's the incarnate eternal Word. Satan hates him. These people do not believe in God, but they do understand that the Christian belief and the Christian worldview that we must conform to the natural law and the natural moral law runs into direct conflict with their entire worldview. So they don't really hate Christ personally in that sense because they don't believe in him. They don't believe in God. But they are the offspring of the serpent, no doubt. And because that's their mindset, they come after Christians. They're starting with Catholics, spies in the churches, her refusing to go to the Al Smith dinner, sending that insulting video in, Joe Biden's Justice Department going after the Little Sisters of the Poor for the fourth time. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, they hate God. They're communists and they hate God. They hate the concept of God, and particularly, especially the Christian God, because their worldview and our worldview, there ain't enough room in this town for both of us.
It's funny you were saying that, on CNN, Kamala had said, yes, I pray, at least twice a day or something like that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Anders, the question came up real quick about religious freedom and stuff, and Anderson Cooper said, do you pray? And she goes, oh, yes, I pray. It was just this awkward, like, oh my gosh, I actually have to pretend I believe in God and I pray now. You could see it all over her body language. And she said, she goes, oh, yes, I pray. And he says, every day? She says, every day. Sometimes twice a day. Mm. And it was just the way she seemed so awkward in her own skin because she didn't seem it. It was obvious that she was, is a better way to say it. She doesn't believe in God. She doesn't believe in, she hates Christians. She loathes Catholics. And, this is what this is. It's a worldview that doesn't have room for God because the state and the leaders of the state of which she wants to be view themselves as God. It truly is. It's like an old shootout on a dusty street at high noon. Not enough room in this town for both of us.
Right. Well, here's if she believes in God and she prays, why would she be offended by someone in the crowd yelling out, I think it was Jesus is Lord or Jesus is King. Take a look at what she says after they say that.
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street. Come on.
She's been starting to do that horrible giggle that she lost for a few weeks when people mocked her over that. But so someone yells out, Christ is King or Jesus is King, Jesus is Lord. She's like, you're at the wrong rally. What does that say?
Yeah, I mean, that is, in any election, that would be a political death knell. 68% of Americans are at least professed to be Christian. So 2/3 of the country, look, most probably don't practice it or violate it or reject this teaching or that teaching or whatever, but nonetheless, I don't think anybody who would call themselves a Christian would object to somebody saying Jesus is King. I mean, duh, that's what he is, King of the universe. So for her to mock that, and if you notice at the end there, she lets the crowd get into it and everything, and she gives this little dismissive, like backhand hand wave, like get rid of them, get them out of here. It inspired a really funny meme on Twitter where it's cartoon, and she is standing at the pearly gates with St. Peter standing at the podium, and he's looking through the book, and he just says, no, I think you're at the wrong rally. I spit my drink out when I saw that. It was hysterical.
She might regret those words one day,
Yeah, let's hope she doesn't. You don't want anybody to go to hell. Even, look, the worst of these people, our Lord died for them too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people make their choices. You hope she doesn't
They make
choose
their
it,
choices, and she's just outright rejecting the Lord.
yeah,
I
I mean, she's
mean,
more than that. She's like blaspheming him. I mean, to dismiss a cry of the supreme reign of Christ as king. So that's just like king of the Christian church or something. I mean, he's king of the universe. He is the eternal logos by which all was created. As we say, and many Protestants even say it also, the Nicene Creed, or at least parts of the Nicene Creed, but Catholics say it every Sunday at Mass. Through him, all things were made. He is king of the universe. And king doesn't even really capture the title. I mean, he is the vehicle by which everything came into creation. The Father said, let there be light. That word is created through the second person. So this is, I mean, what she said, she's probably not thinking on those sort of deep theological terms, but the force behind her, the intelligent force behind her that she has given herself over to, he thinks in those terms. And to mock the supremacy of God is what happened right there. She doesn't have to be consciously aware of that, but she's a participant in it because of her actions and her beliefs and her worldview, and that she goes along with all of it. Absolutely, she is.
I want to get your feedback on some of the rhetoric, some of the terms, the way that they're speaking about Trump. And of course, CNN airs all this stuff, MSNBC, and the likes of the people who really hate Trump. It has no basis in logic, but here Kamala compares Trump to Hitler.
Yesterday, we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
Wow, so she's saying, Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And it's so just absolutely, it's like they should be looking in the mirror. And This is so scary, the way that they're talking about him with no basis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, let's start with the Hitler comparison. Excuse me. You, Kamala, have a wing of your campaign called White Dudes for Harris. White supremacy, anybody? You would not pick Josh Shapiro to be your running mate, a decision you're probably regretting, because he's a Jew. I mean, who's the Hitler person here of this? Plus, it's just insane. I mean, his son-in-law, is Jewish. He moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, has been pro-Israel supportive the whole time. It's just crazy. It's crazy on the surface of it. But underneath that, there's a number of things you could talk about here. First one, that's just pure desperation. Second of all, if I'm not mistaken, that's Blair House she's standing in front of. I couldn't tell exactly. I haven't seen a wide shot of it, but I'm pretty sure that's Blair House. That's a violation. You're not allowed to use your government things for a political campaign. She's not allowed to do that. So that's a violation. I can't remember the name of the act right now, but it's a violation. If that's the Blair House, which I think it is, that's a violation of federal law as it pertains to candidates
Is it Hatch or something like that?
Say it again. Yes, the Hatch Act. Right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a violation of the Hatch Act. You're not allowed to use that stuff. It's an unfair advantage, of course. Another point on this would be that, to go around and call people unstable and this and that and everything. You, Kamala, lied and covered up about the instability, mental and physical, of the guy that was at the top of the ticket until you helped participate in a coup against him. Who clearly the reason she's standing there right now is because he was unstable across the board. She got on the television with Anderson Cooper immediately following that June 27th debate between Biden and Trump. And she said he did great. He got off to a rough start, but he's great. He runs rings around the staff. He works tirelessly from like 4 a.m. until 3 a.m. the next day, and all this stuff.
Complete
she
lies.
Lied through her teeth about him. He was unstable as can be. Couldn't even stand up. Didn't know where he was when he was on a stage, shaking hands with people that weren't there. I mean, all of it. And she lied to participate in all of that. So who's the unstable one here? And he's unstable, Biden, and she lied about it to cover it up, because she wanted her ticket to, it probably was very clear to her that she would just move into the Oval Office eventually if Biden won. If in the election had gone on the way it was supposed to go on and Biden would have somehow won, he's not going to serve 4 years. She would have become president just by virtue of the fact that he had to step down. But she participated in all of this. So, and to say that, Trump is, Trump's unstable and he can't think and he's decrepit and he's old and blah, blah, blah. He's running rings around her. Not too very long ago, he overtook her in the national polling average on Real Clear Politics. He, has always maintained the lead in the battleground states. It's gone down a little bit and gone back a little bit, but, it has continued to build. So, I mean, who's running rings around who here? She's got the entire operation, the entire machine behind her, the schools, the internet, Google searches, the TV networks, the media, everything. She's got everything behind her, and he's still winning. So who's getting,
and all the money?
Who's the
It's amazing how much money, how many billionaires are Democrats. I mean, the love of money is the root of all evil. So, a lot of people who love money have really gone to that party, and they're supporting this craziness. I just, can you help me to understand the illogical positions that the U.S. Democrats have come to in basically supporting someone who wants to give, people that have gender issues in prisons, they want to give them tax-funded gender surgery. She supports this nonstop. They've let all of these people into the country. People have died. Rapists, murderers have come into the United States of America, and she doesn't seem to have she keeps talking about a safe system. And then she talks about turning the page when she's been in there for 3.5 years.
Yeah, she's turning the page on herself. I mean,
right.
Like, what, huh? What are you talking about? Turn the page, move forward from yourself?
Gary, as an American, my question to you is everybody sort of thinking this is a little different? We know that the race for the presidency is usually fraught with, name calling a little. I don't think I've ever seen it like this. I mean, Hillary and Trump, that was epic. That was a very interesting change. And then, Biden versus Trump, that was crazy. And of course, but hey, Biden can do it because he got more votes than Obama, of course. But this has gone to a level that's kind of scary. And people keep saying this is the most important election of our lifetime. If Harris, for whatever reason, be it legitimate or illegitimate, gets in, what happens to America?
Every immigrant that's come over the border illegally, the 10+ million that she's brought in, will become citizens before the next election. They'll be put into states that will tip the balance sufficiently so that every state will become a blue state. They will, maybe not this time around because Republicans will still hold the Senate, but in 2026, the odds are uphill for Republicans. They control the Senate, they'll end the filibuster, they'll stack the Supreme Court. It's over. It's over. Every election is the most important election until the next one. But that's the problem. That's what makes this one the most important election ever, because this one there's a question whether there will be a next election. So this may be the last election. So therefore, it is the most important election. If there is another election, the outcome of it will already be predetermined. It's one-party rule. And look, Elon Musk is saying this. Robert Kennedy Jr. is saying this. Everybody who's got a brain in their head is like, whoa, they're about to like completely upset the entire balance of power. America will become a one-party country, like, for example, California is a one-party state. And when that happens, persecution, deprivation, whatever you want to call it, starts to be taken out on their political enemies. And if you think that's crazy, look at Donald Trump. 94 charges, conviction. Now they're all getting thrown out and frozen and thrown out and relitigated, and appeals courts are saying, hey, you went too far. All of that's happening. That's fine. But if they come after you, for example, Laura-Lynn, do you happen to have a few, tens of millions of dollars sitting around to defend yourself and then go pay, the outrageous sums you have to pay on the appellate level? They can bankrupt everybody.
Wondering, Gary, do you think that if Kamala were to get in, and it doesn't look like she is, I mean, it looks like God is going to bring a reprieve to the United States, but even Donald Trump the other night when I saw him in person, he said, well, it's looking good, but he says things happen,
Yeah.
And I think because that was such a shock in 2020 when everything stopped late at night and all of a sudden by morning, all the numbers are different, So he knows that they've got lots of, different tricks up their sleeve. However, if Kamala gets in, do you think they will continue to pursue Trump, or will they now look at him as a non-entity? They've got 4 years to move on, or because he'll be a lot older. Will he really want to run again in 4 years? But there would still be the option, really.
Oh, I absolutely think they will. Yeah, I mean, remember, the judge in the New York case has put off his sentencing. He's been found guilty. He just hasn't been sentenced yet in the New York case. That's a criminal case. And, that sentencing is supposed to happen the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. These other cases, well, I mean, look, if they can drum up these other charges against him, if that judge puts him behind bars, sends him to Rikers Island or, wherever he's going to send him to, well, he's away and he's done. He can sentence him to, however many years he wants. Not however he wants, but, 4 or 5 years. Well, he's out of the mix. He's done. It's like Steve Bannon going to jail. You haven't heard much from Steve Bannon, from behind the walls of federal penitentiary. When they put you away, they put you away. And they want him gone. Then they would go after his second tier. You can tie people up when you have government funds, unlimited government funds, and you can aim that shotgun barrel at an individual or that individual's business and just continue to litigate them to death, paying them money, drive them into bankruptcy, the whole bit. Absolutely, they're going to do that. That's what they started all these cases. We know the Nathan Wade, who was Fonnie Willis's, lover, prosecutor, whatever, part-time, take a bunch of $600,000, fee under the table, whatever it was. He said, yeah, I went to the White House. We coordinated these, the Fulton County attack against Trump, the charges against him. We coordinated with the White House. I mean, he just said that 2 days ago, or whenever it was, last week, I guess now. That's when he said it. That's what they do. You can't stop that because you don't have enough money. Donald Trump has enough money because he's got $1 billion, but they're beginning an investigation against Elon Musk. They're not going to end. They have to, in their view, and frankly, from their view, it makes complete sense. Cut the heads off these serpents. Get rid of them so that the body dies. Other people don't have the resources to be able to withstand that. So let's get rid of the heads, maybe go down into the second layer and get rid of some notables along the way as well. And then everything will, everybody will get in line. That's true. I mean, how many people walk around with masks on? I still see people wearing masks. It's absurd. In the car, by themselves, alone, windows
I
up, with a
know.
mask on. I saw one yesterday. I'm drive around in a Jeep. I don't have doors on, and I wanted to yell over to them, "Why you got a mask on?" It was like 90 degrees, in Houston. They're driving around with a mask on with the windows up. There's a
It's
large number of the
insanity.
population that will do what they are told to do because that's how they are. Those who would want to rebel against it, maybe they won't wear a mask or they'll pull it under their nose as a little silent protest. But when the push comes to the shove, they can grab you and they can put you wherever they want, charge you with whatever they want. They can either criminalize you, they can bankrupt you, they can do both. They have everything. That's why this is the most important election ever. We've never had a sense of the government actively turning against its population, its citizens, like we have right now, the threat of it right now. It's already happening. Imagine they get 4 more years. Oh, good Lord, they'd take that as a mandate to wipe out every political enemy they've got. And they would do it. They would do it.
It's so very troubling. It's so serious.
Yeah.
We've never seen something like this in a way. I'm glad that my elderly father, who just loved Trump, and we would watch the news together. That was some of my favorite times in his last few months. We would just, and we would celebrate and laugh at some of the things. Like Donald Trump has an amazing sense of humor. He's a good
He really
father.
does.
He loves people. He even loves Hispanics, and the people that have ever worked for him speak so highly of him. The African American community is now coming towards him, and yet these people can continue to demonize him, even as they're losing people from their own party. And Obama recently just sort of, going off about the African American men basically having being misogynist. Like, that was a bad move.
That did not sit well with an awful lot of black men. After that comment was made, I think it was a day or two later. I can't remember the exact time frame, but very close to that. Trump goes into a barber shop in a black neighborhood, and if you know anything about the African American sort of guy pool in the United States, especially in big cities, that's like the watering hole for black guys. They hang out in the barbershop and they talk and whatever and all this. And he went in there, man, they were ticked off. They were ticked off. They did not like Obama. First of all, you're black, but you're also half white. So you're not actually a black man who grew up with the black experience. Kamala does this all the time too. It's not even clear she's black, actually, with the information that's come out about her father.
Yeah, Indian or something.
But she's barely black at the most. So it's one, but we're not talking about the color of the skin when we're talking about American blacks. We're talking about the black experience in the United States of growing up where you were, either discriminated against or at least believed you were, thought you had a difficult time. Many times you did getting employment or getting into school, all of that, the kind of, I guess you might call it sort of the artifacts of slavery or the slavery attitude. You grew up with that. And that's really the black experience that many African Americans plug into. They are, for Obama to lay claim to that, please, you're in Hawaii and Kenya. Kamala, you can't lay claim to that experience. First of all, we're not even sure you're black. But even if you were, you grew up in a really posh neighborhood with 2 PhDs as parents in Berkeley, but you spent most of your time outside of Toronto, growing up in Canada. These people didn't have the African American experience was not part of their DNA and their childhood. They didn't have it. So for them to stand up there and lecture, you need to get back on the plantation, which is pretty much what Obama said. You're sexist, you guys. You got to fix that attitude in your head. And that's what he told them. And he said it in that kind of condescending, preachy tone that, became sort of his hallmark when he would be giving speeches. That is, nose up in the air a little bit, while he was, giving the diatribe against me. They're going to fix what's going on in your head. Maybe the problem's with you, that you aren't ready to, accept a woman as president. That's ridiculous.
Such
depends
a
on
bad
who the
move.
woman is. It's not just, I'm also not going to vote for any woman because she's a woman. I'm going to vote for whoever I think the best candidate is. There are lots of women that I would vote for, for the office of presidency of the United States. But it wouldn't be her, and it wouldn't be Geraldine Ferraro, and it wouldn't be Hillary Clinton, because they're all child killers. I'm not voting for a child killer for anything.
I want to just revisit the rhetoric regarding Trump and Hitler. Glenn Beck reacted to Kamala's words about this, and then I'd like to get your perspective as well.
Now, I want to show you how propaganda works. When I first heard this, somebody said, have you heard the Kamala Harris quote that she just gave? I think she gave it in front of the White House. Well, it's not the White House. I believe this is the vice president's mansion. But notice the picture here. The picture is Kamala Harris in the middle with the two presidential mics and the seal of the vice president of the United States, the American flag, and the flag of the vice president. This is this is not a campaign. This is the United States vice president informing you that Hitler is on the way. Will they not stop at anything? Controlling elites, especially those at the helm of the propaganda industrial complex, think this way. And don't think it's a mistake. They have all of the experts, like Cass Sunstein, nudge. They have behavioral scientists behind all of this.
I know you commented on this, but my concern is that this kind of thing will lead to more attempts on his life and will give legitimacy to someone being unhinged and crazy. Because after all, if we really have a Hitler going in, we have to get rid of him. And the Secret Service, that whole thing of what happened in Butler, it still stinks. And I don't think we're getting answers. Like, how is this president, former president, future president, going to be protected?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of questions that get raised there. And, Laura-Lynn, look, here's one of the problems. There's the attempted assassination, future hypothetical assassination that might happen between now and Election Day, just, whatever, a few days away. Then there is the period between, if Trump wins, the period between Trump winning, and right now it looks like he will, and the inauguration. That's about 10 weeks. And then there's, after he's sworn in, any moment after that for 4 years. Now, I think one of the things that is a little probably problematic for the communists, because that's what they are. I don't call them Democrats, I call them communists. One of the things that's problematic for the communists is that if for some reason they shoot and kill Trump, or somehow assassinate him, if not a gun, well, then you've got President J.D. Vance. And frankly, I don't know that, I don't know that they want that. JD, I mean, you watch JD Vance on that stage with Tim Walz, he tore him to shreds. And he is, I don't mean it's the way it sounds, but in political terms, he's a hardline Catholic. I don't think they want that guy sitting in the Oval Office. But so, would it be an organized attempt on the part of the left to take Trump out? Maybe, but you're right. Glenn Beck's right there that you're lighting the fuse for some crazy that even as the left, you might not be able to control. And if somehow that individual or, a couple of guys or something are successful and taking Trump out, you've just created President J.D. Vance.
It's a real
I don't
problem
think
for
they want
them.
that'd be a huge problem. Honestly, my personal belief is that they would have a much tougher time dealing with President J.D. Vance, especially if he got into office because the guy he was the running mate of was assassinated. Holy crap, can you imagine what would happen at a J.D. Vance run Justice Department? The FBI, he is quick on, I'm not saying any of this to take away anything from Donald Trump, because obviously he's the man. But if he's off the scene because they've managed to kill him, I don't think they want to deal with the repercussions of who steps up to replace him. J.D. Vance is an intimidating, his intellect, his speed, his thought, the organization of his mind is, Trump has all of that in one sense.
Yeah.
He's far thinking, and you can see like 14 different thought patterns all kind of emerging at the same time, and he knows how to work a crowd.
I love it. That's why he's got that funny side of him that kind of comes out in the moment. I mean, I've laughed out loud so many times at Donald Trump's casual comments. But it is a special thing.
He's like the fun uncle who everybody knows is kind of fun. He sits down at the table and he's just kind of spinning yarns, and he's just like Hitler, like Uncle Adolf. But
it's so crazy.
J.D. Vance has a sense of that he'd bring the lumber, and he wouldn't apologize for it. And he'd tell you he's bringing the lumber. If they're thinking that, I'd tell them, boy, you for a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, you don't go around assassinating people. But aside from that, I think you better think twice, because if you want President J.D. Vance, whoo, baby, I think he'd blow you up. I really do.
Yeah, I want to ask you something like about your perspective on the Secret Service, because I heard Donald Trump, with Dan Bongino basically saying that there is intel about the different phones and such that this the murderer, attempted murdering shooter has, and basically I haven't heard it, maybe I've missed it, but where's the further investigation? Where's this guy was this and this, and he had contacts in different countries, and why he would have these contacts, and then this fellow that was at the golf, the golf course, and all of his different associations, and it, like, you get the feeling like something bad is happening with the cover-up.
Yeah, you're dealing with the FBI, who essentially went along with the whole Russia hoax. Were part and parcel of the 51 intelligence directors, current and former. The Hunter laptop is Russian, disinformation. So, what is being done there? I mean, there's all these like crossover investigations. There's the Secret Service, there's the Department of Homeland Security, there's the FBI, and they get to all sit around and kind of point fingers at each other. When you look at the congressional hearings, they're always, when the tough question comes, of course, from Republicans, when that tough question comes, they're like, oh, the other guys know that. Oh, that's part of their investigation. Oh, I can't comment on that because that's their investigation. And they just mix it all up like this. I mean, I guess the point that we really don't have factual evidence on, and, I'm a journalist, you're a journalist, so, all you can do is ask the questions about it. But that something went terribly wrong, actually, in both cases, went terribly wrong, fact. One guy got off shots, fact. So was there a failure of competence across the board? Because that does seem to have some, plausibility to it. Or was there, an actual conspiracy to sort of make things happen? Or were both of those the case? There's three possibilities here, and any one of them, any two of them can be true at the same time.
Yeah, I know, and we hate to get down rabbit holes that just don't have any merit. when I heard that this Butler shooter had been practicing and, had been going to the gun range, the same place that Secret Service go to,
Right.
it just, the plot thickens a little,
Yeah,
it's just one
absolutely.
little chat, isn't it, in a bathroom, as they all are, they're behind the scenes or something, just one little chat, hey, who are you? And, oh, well, I hate that Donald Trump or whatever. Oh, really?
Sure.
And, you figure out that this guy's just a loner. I don't know. So many things could happen. And then it just, with, certain, bits of information coming out about these phones and whatnot, it just seems just too big for just a kid who's bullied and decides I'm going to do something to put my name in the news.
Yeah, who fails and fails to make his own high school rifle shooting team. There are an awful lot of questions there. There really are. But it's clear at this point. I mean, that happened July 19th. Really? And here we are, October 20, whatever we are right now. Days before the election, November, whatever. I mean, really? And you still don't have here's the report. You've had 2 people resign. Okay, because they were forced to, because they were embarrassed in front of congressional, but nothing happened to them. By the way, did they keep their pensions? Are they just on some big long government paid vacation now? I mean, why aren't they behind bars? You failed utterly in your job. You failed utterly in your job to, it wasn't your fault. He's not dead. It was God's fault that he's not dead. So I don't know where you go with, is there a, it looks to me that they are just kicking the can down the road, waiting to see who wins the election in a few days. And if they win the election somehow, they're not going to win the election. If somehow Kamala takes the oath, and it will not be legitimately if she does, if she takes the oath, I think they can just continue spinning and barring and putting up a this and testimony behind closed doors, and then they come and contradict it in front of open microphones and crisscross their paths. You can just keep doing this for everything. You produce some stupid report that doesn't really tell you much at all about anything except to say, well, it happened. It was just this horrible accident. And I think that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting to see. There's an awful lot of people in Washington, D.C., insiders who have an awful lot riding on the outcome of this election. Not just whether they're still going to have a job because a new administration is coming in, but whether they're going to have a new domicile behind bars. And I don't think they're kidding. The talk I hear, I don't think they're kidding. And I can tell you the Democrats don't think they're kidding. Those commies are terrified that if this happens, some of them are going to jail. And frankly, they should.
100%. And, it's funny how in the media they do this predictive programming, these shows that show end of the world, or, there was that one movie with Julia Roberts. It was, and basically New York City is on fire. But I was just on a plane and, I was checking out the movies. They have new releases. So one of them is Civil War. And it's just a 2024 movie, And so this movie basically shows the United States going into a state of utter and total chaos, and Washington's involved. It's about presidential stuff. Either which way, a case could be made, and people are saying that we're close to civil war in the U.S., even no matter which way this goes. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I've seen some of those polls. The last one I saw was about maybe less than a year ago, close to a year ago, that 48% of Americans thought the U.S. would be at a civil war within 10 years. Another one said 5 years, and I think it was like 40% or 42%. Healthy minorities approaching a majority that believe we'd be in a civil war. I don't know how deeply these things get probed. It was a little bit different. I mean, what was the Civil War about here in the U.S. back in 1860. It wasn't about slavery. That was the torch thing, but the war was over the question of whether the states could secede from the Union. And that's what it was about. It wasn't, I mean, that's what touched everything off. And Lincoln said, nope, you're part of this union and we're keeping it unionized, unified. And they're like, screw you, we're out of here. That's what the war was about. The fact that the South did that because of slavery didn't make slavery the issue of the Civil War. Well, what would that be here? What would a state, I'm in Texas, what would Texas secede from the nation for, and who would join it, and what about the interplay? And if 41% of Texas is blue or Democrat, well, don't you have to have your own civil war within Texas first, so that the 60% of Republicans can kick out, or what, kill, shoot, arrest, the 40%? The lines were clear. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying it would be of a different type than it was, 140 years ago, 160 years ago. It'd be a different type of war because it would have to be. How would you determine who's on what side? What if the person next to you has a Harris Walls sign and you've got your Trump sign and you're in a red state? Do you come out and shoot them and kill them when they're on their way to work that day? And then you've got larger economic questions. If a woke airline like Delta, if Texas rewrites their constitution, as we secede from the Union, here's our Texas national constitution. We are our own republic once again. By the way, Texas is the only state in the country that was at one time its own nation. That's why the flag is the Republic of Texas. So what do you do with that? I mean, do you say, well, we don't want woke corporations from the North doing business here? We don't want workers who are going to come in here and undermine our new nation of Texas, or maybe the South, or the Gulf Coast new Confederacy. It would be massively complicated and involved to have to disentangle from the other states, from the blue states. Not saying it can't be done, not saying that it can't be accomplished, not saying that it isn't worth having those kinds of conversations, because do people in Texas who are patriots want to keep paying money into a Washington, D.C. swamp that's going to use that money to undermine their family values, their way of life, their everything, giving money. I don't want my money going to the Ukraine. I don't want my money going to support foreign wars. I want my money being used on homeless vets. I don't want my money being used to pay for, illegal immigrants being put up in $400 a night hotels in New York. So where do you draw the line?
And homeless people.
What's the spark? What's the spark that sets it off? That's sort of the thing you have to ask. And right now we don't have that. We got a lot of agitation. There's a lot of gunpowder laying all over the place right now, but it still isn't quite organized. So is the possibility there? Yeah. But I don't think it's something that would happen kind of immediately.
Right.
Although I don't know.
It would be a simmer, and it would be like a calculation of what just happened here. And what is the ramifications? What are the ramifications for our future? And then I can see, men have an incredible, a preservation, a security gene where they want to protect family and values. And every one of you guys who want to be like 007, I've seen y'all in the movies. You love those guys. You love that man who just does everything. You have this, and I believe it's God-given, where you want to protect your homeland. Something's gone very wrong. And if Donald Trump doesn't get in, and the thing is, if we had a Donald Trump and then we had a J.D. Vance, God willing, what's the next hurdle? This is a lot of people on the wrong side of rationale. They don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things, what are we? everybody thinks of the United States of America. They put the emphasis on America as a single entity as opposed to states, which ends in an S, which makes it plural. It's really 50 different countries that have their own governments, states, like Canada has its provinces. They're states, they have their own executive branch, their own judicial branch, their own legislative branch. It's bicameral, I believe, in all of them except maybe one. If state legislators want to start making their state more reflective of what we would consider, Christian values, pro-life, pro-family values, all those sorts of things, there may just sort of be, now it's not going to happen overnight, but there may be a sense of migration within, intra-migration, I suppose you could say, that red states would become much more red and blue states would become much more blue. There was a question proffered, I guess this was, I came across about 6 months or so ago, that you wouldn't be allowed to vote. I think the state was Kentucky. Doesn't matter what state, it was just being thrown out as an example. But you wouldn't be allowed to vote in Kentucky or Tennessee or whatever if you hadn't lived there for 3 generations. So, yeah, a state regulates its own elections. It regulates who can vote. There are certain federal rules and laws that apply, but on the state level, there is no U.S. constitutional right to be able to go vote for a state legislator in Nashville, Tennessee. It has nothing to do with the U.S. Constitution. If a state wants to regulate its elections the way it wants to regulate them on a state level, which is what you're talking about here, they're free to do it.
Okay, that's fascinating. That's great information.
It's a very interesting question.
Us up here in Canada might not fully understand that. And what you're explaining is look at them all like they are individual. Look at the way, that the governor of Florida governs as opposed to the governor of California. 2 totally different ways, and it's still the United States, but they get to make up all these rules how they want to do it.
Sure, absolutely. And there's, this is a question that came up on the ballots in Arizona. Do you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in a federal election, but you don't have to be a U.S. citizen in Arizona to be registered to vote. Well, why would you register to vote if you weren't going to vote? I'm not going to go stand in line, to go, a 3-hour line to go into a grocery store. And when it's my turn, leave the line because I don't really want to go in. So it's one of these weird loopholes in the law. You can't vote, but you can register to vote, and then your name gets on the thing. And then other states have rules that, once you sign up for a driver's license, you're automatically put on the voters' rolls if you're over 18 or whatever the age is in the state. When I got my driver's license here a few weeks ago in Texas, there was just one little box. Do you want to register to vote? I just checked the box, and that was it. I didn't have to do anything else. And all I was doing was applying for my driver's license. Now, I did have to prove that I was a U.S. citizen further back up the chain, so that's good. Texas runs their voter rolls, pretty cleanly. But even here in Texas, they had to wipe out hundreds of thousands of people who shouldn't have been on the rolls. Some of them were illegals. Most of them were dead or moved out, or they just hadn't cleaned up the rolls. But nonetheless, how a state runs its elections, who's allowed to be voting, how often are they going to clean up the rolls? You have the thing in Michigan. The Elon Musk got into a pissing match over Twitter or on X with Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State of Michigan. They went back and forth with each other. Somebody had figured out that there are more people registered to vote in Michigan, 8.2 million, than there are actual voters, 8 million. Wait a minute, how can you have more registered voters than there are actual voters, the voting population? And, and so Elon tweeted that out. I don't know what you call it. Do you exit out? I don't know what it's called. Tweet out, I guess.
We're all confused about that.
It's like, you need a verb. Elon, you need a verb for tweet. And X doesn't make sense.
I know.
So, so he said, hey, look at this. She actually published a statement. And then she went on, I think it was Face the Nation, I think, one of the Sunday morning talk shows, and said, oh, he's spreading disinformation. This is why you have to shut down, the social media conservatives and blah, 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 and all that. We're getting rid of those people on the rolls. I think it was, the end of the day, I think it was 600,000, total. So we're getting rid of those people in 2025 and 2027. There's an election, right around the corner. Why are they still on the rolls? And get rid of them now.
Crazy.
And so it is true. It is true. It's not the fact, well, we're going to get rid of them in 3 years. Well, we're worried about this election, not 3 years from now. So, and there's no force in Michigan to immediately force the Secretary of State's hand. And she's the one, that office is the one that's in charge of the elections in the state. There's no way to force her to take those people off the rolls now. She's already said they're wrong. They've already been identified. They shouldn't be on the rolls. We're going to be cleaning the rolls and getting rid of them in 2025 and again in 2027. Get rid of them now. But there's no mechanism in the state government in Michigan to do that. Can't force her to do it. She's like the god of the elections or the goddess of the elections. Different states handle their elections different ways. The problem comes when you have state elections on the same ballot as federal elections, like we have right now. Every state in the country has a ballot of federal stuff. A third of the states, the president, office of president, vice president. A third of the states have U.S. senators on them. They all have U.S. congresswomen positions on them. And then there's a whole bunch of state things also. So now you've got a state and federal election on the same ballot. Some states break them apart. And here's your federal ballot. Here's your state ballot. So U.S. elections aren't really U.S. elections. They are individual 50 elections, and the one for president just all happens to happen on the same day. And the thing here is the Democrats the communists over the last probably 3 or 4 election cycles, maybe 5, have figured out how to game the system state by state, while the Republicans and conservatives have been once again, yawning and carrying on, outplaying in the sandbox, while the sinister evil people have been gaming the system and rigging it and putting little time bombs in place in order to blow it up along the way. And we saw that in 2020. They stole that election in 2020, absolutely stole it.
Yeah.
And now here we are at 2024. Let's see how this goes now. I'm very troubled when I hear 4 or 5 states, the same ones that were problems last time, are like, we're not going to have a vote count for tabulation for 3 or 4, maybe 5 days after the election. And for your viewers, and certainly American viewers as well, remember there's 2 different things that happen when those results are coming in. A news media, generally Associated Press, and then other big groups, CBS, Fox, CNN, whoever, are also sort of tracking that. They'll project a winner based on what's going on with, whatever key precincts or precincts they've identified as key, what's the turnout, blah, blah, all the 15 different factors. They say, okay, we've got this. While there's still, 70% of the vote out, we project a winner, blah. They can call New York the second the polls close, for example. They haven't even seen a single vote come in yet. That's different from a state certifying an election. This is what counts. So if a state doesn't certify an election, and yet a media source or media sources project a winner based in that state, that doesn't mean anything. All people need to do is go back to the 2000 election between Al Gore and George Bush, when Dan Rather on CBS projected that Al Gore had won Florida. And then about an hour and a half later, he had to roll that back and say, oops, we don't know. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, what do you mean? You called it. It's not. Why would you have called it if you weren't sure? And all that stuff happened. Of course, Florida turned into the hanging chads and, that whole debacle.
I
By the way,
remember that.
Bush,
that was crazy. And
Bush did win that.
Yeah.
Bush did win
Bush
that.
wins,
He didn't win it because the Supreme Court stopped it and stopped the counting and said, that's it. He did win it, in fact. He won it by 837 votes. Both the Washington Post and the New York Times went down and did for months their own individual, and sure enough, he had actually won it by less than a hair, but he won it. And then winning that, he won the
Well, where
Electoral
was
College
that kind of
votes.
investigation, in 2020? People just decided what they wanted. the
Well, yeah,
outcome to
yeah,
be,
well,
right?
yeah. Well, that investigation didn't happen in 2020 because Biden won. So it's the most safe, secure election in U.S. history.
Yeah.
We just didn't know anything until 5
So
days later
believable.
at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Right. Wow. I want to end. Thank you so much for the generosity of your time. We just appreciate you. I love your heart. I love your heart for the Lord. And I appreciate your godly insight, your discernment. What they're doing coming after faith-based people, I want to close with that. Donald Trump did say that Catholics are under threat. There's also the Christian nationalist term that they're using. But let's have a look at Donald Trump saying.
But if you're Catholic, there is no way you can be voting for these people. These people are a nightmare. I don't know what they have against Catholics, but Catholics are treated worse than anybody. So, and by the way, evangelicals are next. You can bet on it. Evangelicals are next, but they label Catholics as potential domestic terrorists. And the fact is that they'll be coming after you soon. These people are sick. These people are very sick people. Christians will not be safe with Kamala Harris as President of the United States.
So, Gary, I'm wondering, are you seeing Catholics turn away? It's always been hard for me to understand. Catholics are so pro-life, and the Democrats are so pro-abortion. It's been hard to understand that correlation, but are you seeing them turn away from the Democratic Party?
Yes. I don't know that it's necessarily over the pro-abortion stance of the Democrats. Certainly with some it is. To understand sort of what has happened among the Catholic voters, you have to who punch above their weight class, by the way. We're about 22-23% of the U.S. population. We're about 24-25% of the vote. So we vote with a greater frequency for our numbers than any other group. But to understand what's happened there, you kind of have to look at what's happened in the country. Democrats and Republicans are Americans. Yes, we were born here. Excuse me. For the most part, we were born here. But yet there's this massive divide. Well, the same thing has happened. And what's the divide over? Ultimately, the worldview as expressed in the Constitution and in our customs and laws and traditions and all that sort of thing. That same war within America for kind of the definition and the soul and the understanding of America is ongoing in the Catholic Church as well. So about 60% or so of Catholics do not go to Mass on Sundays, which in the Catholic Church is a mortal sin. The other 40% do. So most of the ones who go to Mass accept the Church's teachings across the board, for the most part, on abortion and, divorce, remarriage, and things like that. The ones who don't go generally don't believe in those teachings. So you kind of have like the Democrat Catholics who reject the U.S. and also reject the faith, although they are American and they are baptized Catholic. And then on the other side, on the American level, you've got the patriots who accept originalism and the Constitution and all of our laws and traditions and customs and practices and, being nationalist. And in the Catholic world of that, you've got the exact same thing, except it's more on a theological, spiritual level. They accept the church, they accept the teachings of the church, they participate in the sacraments of the church, all of these sorts of things. So that's what's interesting when you look at these two worlds. So there are more of the liberal Catholics than there are Orthodox conservative Catholics. So when you have Donald Trump winning a majority or more Catholics than Kamala Harris, which is the case right now according to polling, that means he's got this block pretty much locked down, and he's drawing away from liberal Catholics who would be more sort of liberal, American, progressives, that sort of thing. He's drawing them in too because of the numbers game. So when that's happening, that tells you, he's taking away from the largest single voting bloc by religion, people who would be more naturally, because of their worldview, inclined to vote for Kamala, and yet he's getting a majority. Means he's stripping away a sizable portion of this crowd. Well, if that's happening and this is why the Catholic vote is so illustrative in what's going on in the rest of the country. If he's stripping that away in Catholicism, and if Trump is, and he's getting them to vote for him, or at least not vote for her, in sufficient numbers that he now has a majority, well, is he doing that in other groups also? Because it's a big voting bloc. I mean, it's a big voting bloc. So if it's happening there, is there any sort of trickle down from that? Well, it would appear the answer is yes. I mean, given what we know about the polls and the early voting and the mail-in ballot requests and the ones that have been returned and all these sort of, as we talked earlier in the show, these sort of pre-election day, pre-final certification metrics that we go through. I mean, everything looks good for him. So it seems
And
to,
he's,
what do you
Trump's
do?
talking,
He's stripping
yeah.
He's stripping enough people away from like the black voters, stripping enough people away. I mean, I've seen 2 polls now. He's actually ahead in the Latino vote. In the raw numbers percentage, he actually has a higher percentage of Latino vote.
Love it.
Where is she getting her support? From abortion. That's it. From white, college-educated women who need to come out in such numbers for her on the single topic of killing their children, to the degree that swamps all the rest of these groups that he's peeling people away from. Latinos, young black men, Catholics, liberal Catholics. I mean, just across the board, he's pulling from here, and he's building up his thing, his warehouse, so to speak. Is she going to get more because they're stripping away from her? That's her constituency. So she has to not only fill her depleted, but now she has to increase it over and above what it would normally be, with enough college-educated, white women who want to kill their children to overcome what he has done. That's the battle that's going on right now. That's it.
Well, may God help us all. Gary, you're an awesome,
Yes.
a tremendous, tremendous asset to the United States of America. I appreciate that you do this show in depth at Souls and Liberty. Keep up the good work. People can track you down there, I guess. What is the best way to find your site?
Soulsandliberty.com, soulsandliberty.com, soulsandliberty.com.
And it's with the and,
there
right?
We are.
Is it with the little?
Write out the word and. Yeah.
And. Oh, write it out. Write it out. Souls
Write
and
it out.
Liberty.
Yeah, not the ampersand. Just,
Okay.
SOULSAND Liberty.com.
Okay. Souls and Liberty. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you for giving us your insights, and we pray that God will bless America and that God will keep Canada, his true north, strong and free. And both of those are tasks that are huge and require a God to be able to do it. So thank you, Gary. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. What a great guy. I like Gary. I liked him the last time that we had him on. Very insightful, very discerning, and I appreciate that that he's unashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ and the impact that that this Bible that I have in front of me, the impact that it has on our whole world. As far as immigration goes, I was saying to some people, I was with the Filipinos this last weekend, and I was speaking at a conference, and I was like, if we have to have immigration, why, as a Christian country? We are Christian. That's where we get our values of freedom. So you can be atheist, you can be other religions, but we are a country of freedom of religion, freedom of thought. And so both the United States and Canada have that. But if we love this way of thinking, Why would we not bring way more immigrants? Do you know it's harder for Christians that are immigrants to get in the country? I had somebody write me an email basically saying how difficult it was, like even to go through the legal process, you know, but hey, if you're a terrorist, you've just been let out of jail in El Salvador and you come up, you know, through the southern border, you just walk in and no one will ever find you again. I mean, this is crazy what has happened. So if we were to bring in, you know, Filipinos or even Ugandans, you know, I'm from Uganda. I was born in Uganda. Like, that's a largely Christian country. So bring in those that are struggling, that need help from those countries, right? Instead, we have brought in people who do not represent our values. They don't honor our values. They don't honor our Jesus. Even the Muslims, you know, they say that they love Jesus, but they love Isa. Isa, who they say is the Jesus. Well, he didn't die on the cross. He did not rise again. They don't honor any of our belief. Christianity is nothing if there was no resurrection. I mean, that's how serious this is. I would take a bullet for that. I believe that Jesus died and he resurrected. But the people that we brought into our country, they don't honor our values. And I'll never forget my friend telling me about being, I think she was at a bank or a restaurant, and the person waiting on her was of a different nationality. And she was saying, you know, and they said, Happy Holidays. She says, well, actually, it's Merry Christmas. And they looked her cold in the eye. And this is someone with a different religion, different color of skin and everything. But they just looked her cold in the eye and said, no, it's Happy Holidays. And in that moment, she knew and they knew that this was the battle of, we don't honor your religion, and we're not going to say Merry Christmas. And our nation, oh, well, we're just happy holidaying, you know, all over the place. So absolutely incredible. Thank you all for those who support this show. We appreciate you so much. We've, you know, now entered into going on to Daystar, and our fourth show aired this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I already heard from my friend who says she loves getting up to watch it. So the problem is it's at 3:30 in the morning in British Columbia, but we will soon be on video on demand, and I will give you that link so that you can follow us there. But also if you can support that, because now we are getting into a whole new level of homes, and we are going to a new audience. And I think it's important to spread the truth to a new audience. JT, I do have a share up there. And there's a story that has now broken regarding Bill Gates actually being held to account somewhere in the world. And I thought, well, that's interesting, and I hope it's true. It's from some credible sources. So basically, this is breaking news. Bill Gates loses lawsuit and will appear in a Dutch court. Now, I got this from my senior producer, Gary, and he's fabulous because he tries to give me things that are legit. And the short story is that Bill Gates, philanthropist and founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, recently filed an incident against the 7 Dutch plaintiffs who want to take him to court because they accuse him of, wow, how do I say that, JT? Tortious act? A tortious act as a participant in the project, the Great Reset. The hearing was on September 18th, 2024 in the District Court of Leeuwarden in Friesland, the Netherlands, and the verdict was on October 16th. Gates, who did not appear before the Leeuwarden District Court on September 18th, but was represented by a lawyer from Pels Rijken, stated that he believes that a Dutch judge is not competent to judge him because Gates is an American citizen. So basically, though, he is appearing, and during the courts here, recordings were made. So then a ruling came down, okay? This was covered in the press, and then a ruling came down on October 16th, and Bill Gates lost. So he loses. Court of the Netherlands, civil law, hearing location. Here's the case number, the judgment, and the judge announced on October 16th that Gates was in the wrong. The Dutch judge does have jurisdiction. The official notification with the ruling was published on the website. So the summary of the case, the claimants allege that representatives of Gates as a group and individually acted unlawfully towards them by deliberately misleading them in an unlawful manner and thereby inducing them to undergo COVID-19 injections, of which the Hofstra et al. Knew, or at least should have known, that these injections were not safe and effective. So this is something that it's not in English, but it does have English subtitles. And I'll go to this next one as well. And so this is also on the Defender and Children's Health Defense, which of course I believe is part of RFK's, in his purview. Bill Gates to stand trial in the Netherlands in COVID vaccine injury lawsuit. So on October 22nd, this was released. A Netherlands court last week ruled that Bill Gates can stand trial in the Netherlands in a case involving 7 people injured by COVID-19 vaccines. Well, if that can happen there, why can Bill Gates then not stand trial when we have hundreds of thousands, even millions of people who've been harmed by the COVID-19 vaccines in North America? This is very interesting. So a Netherlands court last week ruled that Bill Gates can stand trial in the Netherlands in a case involving 7 people injured by COVID-19 vaccines. According to Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf, the 7 corona skeptics sued Gates last year. They call them corona skeptics, along with former Dutch Prime Minister and newly appointed NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and several members of the Dutch government's COVID-19 outbreak management team. So I think this is fantastic. You can look this up. It basically just came out yesterday, and the lawsuit's been filed, and the judge is saying he should be able to stand trial. Of course, Bill Gates is going, why would I stand trial in your country? I'm not a citizen of your country and whatever. But let's face it, Bill Gates and his safe and effective narrative on these COVID vaccines that came out. We continue to hear of the harm here at Laura-Lynn Live Show because people write me and tell me about it, and they want to even share their stories. I mean, there's so many of them that we kind of have to go, well, we've covered a lot of vaccine injuries, so it's, we know they're there. We've had people, the lady that was on our show, I think it was her second shot, and then she's in a wheelchair for life. She has no control over her body's functions. She's in a wheelchair. And the doctors know that it was a vaccine injury. This is not safe and effective. For the wrong person at the wrong time, when it's actually not saline solution, which some of them were, you're going to end up potentially being very harmed. And I mean, we've covered this over the years, like how different people, get different shots. And we've shown some evidence of how that's happened, and people ending up finding out that they got saline instead of the actual shots, which they should be thanking God, but a lot of people were upset. Can you imagine being upset? I would be very happy if I only got saline and didn't get that actual shot. And I'm so glad, like, some people are not harmed and injured, and we pray protection over them. But we are also seeing, as being revealed continually by the doctors in Canada, Dr. Makis, Dr. Byram Bridle, Dr. Charles Hoff, all of these men going to the mat. Dr. Trozy, incredible. These are Canadian heroes that are refusing to bow in the face of the lies that have been told on all of this. And so, wow. So, that's why I just want to say that I just thank you so much. I mean, that's why we've gone to a larger audience, and I appreciate you. We have tremendous needs now. We have financial needs in order to get to make sure, that we get everything paid for, because it's way beyond us. Our charity status, I mean, it's listed online, and you can go there and see that JT and I, we make pittance so that we can do this. We make very little because we believe that this is a calling from God. And so if you are able to help us, we appreciate you. There's so many ways that you can help us. You can do snail mail. You can do e-transfers, where you can also write me a letter and, express some of your concerns and thoughts about what's going on. But when you go to our website, there's that donate button, and you can be an anonymous donor. You don't even have to let us know who you are. You just send some funds, and some of you don't like to be, public. You all have no idea how much it means that you will stand with us and be a part of, what we're doing, because really this is about you. This is about you and us collaborating. Everything we do is because you have made it possible. And I appreciate you, whether it's your prayers or your financial support, your notes of encouragement to us as we step forward. And so you can see there that there's that donate button. It's so easy. You just sign in and, you give them your email. And before you know it, you're able to just choose which way you'd like to donate. And as well, PayPal is available. And so we just appreciate so very much that you stand with us. This is not us by ourselves, although we have felt like that at times. But when I see you across Canada at different events, when I hear from you on email, when you support us, it means the world. And getting into the homes of Canadians, into 8 million homes in Canada, means they can't shadow ban me. They can't subvert the information. They can't keep telling us, that we're spreading misinformation or disinformation. We have a free platform that we pay for that goes into 8 million homes. And let me tell you something. We tell the truth here. And all of those people that are getting funds from Trudeau's, basically his, economic plan to fund the people who will do his talking points and his lies. We don't get that. We don't get any part of it, because we will not tell lies. We will speak the truth. And so I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your recent, donations. And many of you take the time to go to our website, even to just write. I want to thank Linda, Jennifer, Kathy, Karen, Helene, Anne, William, Dan, Cindy, Sherry. I just thank you. In the last couple days, you have helped us. This is paramount to us being able to have the resources and the funds to make this happen. And, we appreciate those incredible people. Nita out there, I think of you, and I think of Vivian and Shar, and those who take a special notice that this is an important work that God is doing in our nation. And you come alongside of us and make us feel like family. And we see you as family. When we have prayer requests sometimes, we send it, to folks we know are interested in praying for us. They've said, listen, we'll pray for you. We're like, we are all over that. We will take it. Thank you for praying. We need it, because we have technical difficulties at times, which is just crazy. We have little gremlins, running around trying to make us miserable. And so we just thank you so much for that. And I did cover yesterday about what's happening in gold and silver. I hope that you are all paying attention, everybody, to this gold and silver change that is taking place. I'll see if I can just pull it up one last time, because here it is, JT. But just 4 days ago or so, James Turk says $50 plus silver is days or weeks away, not months. So this guy, James Turk, apparently, my gold and silver guy, and you can even put that up there, Sovereignize at protonmail.com. I think, did I get that right? Steve at Sovereignize. So he says, James Turk, like this guy, you can take to the bank sort of what he says. He's very, very on the ball. Suddenly, gold and silver are doing a little jump, and especially silver. Silver's sort of been a bit stagnant. You know, they like to keep it artificially low. Nobody wants gold and silver to do well when they're running the show on fiat currency and, you know, the way that they're going about their business these days. But this is, you know, what we highly recommend, and what we believe in ourselves is that we would make sure that we invest our fiat currency, which is potentially on any given day at great risk of being exposed as a complete fraud, that we would take those funds while they are still being honored, buy gold and silver, get it into your hands, into your home, and that gives you the financial security to know that you've got the funds in your hand. And of course, gold and silver can be traded like a commodity. We've actually paid contractors in gold. We took our money and we squirreled it away and we got some gold. And then when we had to pay a contractor to do some renovation work, we talked to him about it. And we said, well, we can give you this gold coin, which is worth so much today and might be worth $200 more later as currency, or we can give you fiat currency, which could plummet. And he was a bit taken back by that. And he thought about it, and we said, well, it's okay. We'll go. We'll cash it in. We'll give it to you tomorrow then. We'll give you cash. And he's like, okay, I'll try it. And then the next time that we had to pay him, he's like, you got any more of those gold coins? Because now he was paying attention and gold has gone up, right? So it's kind of simple. We just like to give you that warning. All right, for any of you out there who would like to get your hands on some ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, please contact Mia at Sozo Health at, what is that? Sozo Health at proton.me. Mia at Sozo Health at proton.me. Absolutely fantastic. I feel like I could blow my nose again, but I'm not going to, JT. We'll just hand it into our final bid today. Well, we just thank you so very much for caring for us, for loving us. We're so glad that we've had this opportunity to get onto Daystar, and we appreciate the support and the love and the kindness that all of you have shown us. And the easiest way to help us is definitely at the 1-800 number that you can see, but also by going to our website, and you can sign on as an anonymous donor, a one-time donor, or a monthly donor. And if you do, then I would love to send you my book, which is Relentless Redemption, for $20 or more, new monthly donor. And some of you, you send $100 and you say, I'd like to get the book, and that's no problem either. We'll send that out to you. We appreciate it. This is how we make it happen. And we would love to hear from you. We would love to pray for you. If you can call 1-800-437-4356, 1-800-437-4356. We have operators, and they will get back to you. Sometimes it's kind of early in the morning, but they will get back to you. You can even you can make donations that way as well. And excuse me. And we're there, and we're partnering with you to bring the truth without apology, to bring the truth. We are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but we also feel that we need to have knowledge, because without knowledge, the people perish. So we're here to bring the truth, and we don't get any of those government funds to speak any lies, and we won't speak lies, and therefore we're not funded by anyone. And we appreciate if you take the time to let us know that you're with us. We love you so much. Psalms 24, I want to leave you with something, just thinking about all of these epic things that Gary was talking about in the United States, this assault on Christianity, the assault on those who love God, the assault on those who unabashedly, courageously declare that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is King. I remember a few years ago in Canada, there were all these billboards that went up everywhere. Jesus is Lord. I loved those. It was a campaign, it kind of came and went, and I think we should have more campaigns like that. Jesus is Lord, and he truly is. And so when we see that, this epic election in the United States, which always affects us in Canada, whatever happens down there seems to have quite, you know, an offspring into what happens here. And we could be looking at an election sooner than later in Canada as well. And the thing about elections is they're unknowns. We don't know till the day it happens, until we go into, you know, history, and we live it through to see who wins, who doesn't, how they go about doing it, what their policies are, how we make it through. Will they honor God? And it does seem that in the United States, they have got someone now running who is honoring God, who does declare Jesus to be the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. That's amazing. Wouldn't it be awesome to have someone in Canada openly, as a leader of this nation, pulling down the Asherah poles and just declaring that Jesus is Lord over Canada? It's like we've gotten away. It's become so politically incorrect to believe in God. It's become so, not the thing to do. I mean, you can't say that, that you're aligned with one certain religion if you're in politics. So our leaders, wow, I mean, it's rare to even hear a God bless anymore. Well, we declare that Canada is a sheep nation, a Christian nation. And my friends, we're going to have to vie for that. We're going to have to defend that. We're going to have to contend for that, because as it stands right now, 100,000 abortions in Canada doesn't look like a Christian nation. Flying the LGBTQ flag over our parliament doesn't look like a Christian nation. We're barely able to say a man is a man and a woman is a woman in this country without getting fired. So, what does the Word of God say about where our heart and our soul needs to be? Psalms 24, guess what? The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it on the seas and established it on the waters. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? Don't you want to do that? Don't you want to be a part of the people of God who can stand where he is in his very presence? I can tell you it is possible. I want to be one of those people. Do you? Do you want to be in the assembly of the righteous? Do you want to be part of the remnant that honors their God, that puts aside political correctness and declares that Jesus is Lord? So it asks, who may stand in his holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. That's how we stand before him. If you have not made Jesus your Lord and Savior, will you consider that today? If you have been lukewarm, will you consider putting God on the throne of your heart? Stand with clean hands and a pure heart. God bless you all. See you again soon. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.